so this is my unit vocabulary video. Apparently I'm doing it through my phone because my laptop does not want to act right today. So I'm doing it through my phone and I'm going to send it to you through Canvas, hopefully. And basically all I'm going to be doing is just matching up the vocabulary words, and really just I thought it would be okay if I can do it through a video because I thought it would be kind of I hope you can see me, very creative. So how I'm gonna do this, we're gonna go ahead and start. So the first vocabulary word is relation. So relation, I matched that up with number 1, which is the first one, and it says a relation in which each element of the domain is paired with exactly one element of the range. So basically all that is just, I hope you can see it, it's just, I wrote some notes earlier today, so that's exactly what that is. It's just this, you know, I wrote some coordinates and then I was trying to match them up by using this chart right here. That's all that basically is. It's just trying to give you a visual perspective of it. The next word that we're working on is function, and I matched that up with number 6, which it says a method of writing algebraic variables as functions of other variables. Most often functions are portrayed as a set of x and y coordinates with the vertical y-axis served as a function of x. For example, writing f of x equals to 3x is the same as writing y equals 3x. So that's basically what that means. A function is like function also is like this. So a function is when you have a number of coordinates, and you have to look at the x-axis only in order to see if it's a function or not. Or you can use the vertical method, which you can use the vertical line, but I like using this kind of method where you just look at all the coordinates. So we have all the coordinates here, and so we're looking at the x-axis. The x values are 2, 5, 0, and 4. So since we don't have a number repeated here, therefore that is a function. So that's basically a definition of like a function. So that's exactly what that means right there. It's kind of basic, but I mean it helps. The next one is function notation, and I matched that up with number 2, and it says a set of input and output values usually represented in order pairs, and input and output values are only just the x values, which is on the x-axis of a coordinate plane. This is kind of like this right here. This right here is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. So that's exactly what that is. So it's just, you know, input and output values. The next one is domain. Domain is a vocabulary word that I matched up with number 3. It says the set of all x coordinates of the ordered pairs of a relation. So x coordinates are only the ones that's on the x-axis, which it goes horizontal, like we showed on the picture that I just, well, this piece of paper that I showed you just then. It goes horizontal. All they're asking, like if you have a question that they ask, like, hey, we need you to look for the domain. If they have this horizontal line on the coordinate plane, all they want is for you to look for the x values, which is horizontal, and that's the domain. So that's exactly what that is. The next one is range. Range is just like the domain, but it's kind of like a little opposite. It's kind of like a little different. So the y-axis, I'll show it to you again. Y-axis is this right here. This is the y-axis. And so whenever you get a math question on your test or like in homework or whatever it is, and they ask you for a range, they basically mean they want you to look for the y values that's on the vertical line. So the vertical line, you just have to just look for the y values, which just means like you have the numbers that's on that vertical line. So that's all they're really asking for you when they ask for the range. Next one is the parent function. I matched that up with number 8, the simplest function of a family of functions. So let's say, for instance, you had the y equals ax squared plus b plus c. The simplest way that you can do that is doing like y equals x squared. So it's really just a simplified version of that equation. That's basically what a parent function is. It's just a simplified version of it. And so who would have thought that math or equations would actually have their own kind of parents as well? That's kind of crazy, but it seems pretty cool. Alright, next vocabulary word, family of functions. I matched that up with number 10. It says a set of functions defined by the same type of formula. That's all it is. It's just, a set of functions have all kinds of numbers and a set of numbers that are functional, and they're just defined by the same kind of formula. It's just that easy. Alright, next one is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, like we talked about earlier about the domain and range, is the exact same thing. So the y-intercept is just the exact same thing as the range. So the y-intercept, but except it's a little bit different. So I matched y-intercept with number 7. Number 7, it says, is the point of which the line crosses the y-axis. So it's kind of like a way of how a coordinate is actually put together. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So the y-axis is always right here. The y-coordinate is always right here. The x-coordinate is right there. So that's exactly what a y-intercept is. It's kind of like the same thing as domain and range, except it's a little bit different. So you kind of could say they're kind of like cousins in some ways, because they're kind of like the same thing. But the next one is also the x-intercept. The x-intercept is the exact same thing, like I showed you. This is a little bit better to show it to you like this. So right here, the x-intercept is the x-coordinate is always going to be right here, no matter what. It's always going to be on the left side of the equation, and the y-coordinate is always going to be on the right side of the equation. So that's exactly what they mean when they say the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And on top of that, they're basically going to ask you that question whenever you're revolving around using the coordinate plane. So that's exactly what that means. So last one is the inverse function, and I matched that up with number 9. It says number 9, it says if a relation pairs element A of its domain to element B of its range, the inverse relation pairs B with A. Okay, so it's kind of like a reverse of the domain and range. Instead of the domain being first, it's kind of like the range is first and then the domain. So if AB is an ordered pair of relation, then BA is an ordered pair of its inverse. So that's basically what that is. It's just like a reverse version of the domain and range. So like we said, the domain and range, the domain is the x values, the range is the y values, and that, how you have your x-intercept, that's first. Usually the x-intercept is first, and the y-intercept is last in the coordinate. But in this in like an inverse function, you kind of flip it to where the y-intercept is going to be first and the x-intercept is going to be last. So that's basically what that is. I hope that this was a very fun video, also very educational at the same breath, and I hope you definitely have enjoyed it, and I hope I get a good grade. Bye.